Kuurne, Brussel, Kuurne, hot on the heels of Omloop Nieuwsblad. A race that's been won twice in recent years by Mark Cavendish, but with Tom Bonen holds the record with 3 wins. Jasper Stuyven, the defending champion from 2016. World champion in town, trying to win it for the first time. Fantastic performance 24 hours ago at Omloop Nieuwsblad, having to settle for second though behind the Olympic champion Greg van Avermaet. Van Avermaet had a golden day in Ghent, 2 years running the winner of the Belgian opener. A slightly less testing course this time. 200 kilometers though from Kuurne, very close to Kortrijk in the heart of Belgian cycling country, through Oudenaarde, where you've got the Ronde van Vlaanderen, the Tour of Flanders finishing. Gerardsbergen, the famous moor, is not passed on this race, but there are 12 Hellingen or hills, many of them cobbled as well. The famous Kwaremont is the 8th of the 12th. We've got Kleusberg, Tegenberg, Holstraat and Nokkerenberg to go before that final run-in back to Kuurne and the 2 final laps of 15 flat kilometers. It's been a lightning fast start today too of what they call openings weekend here in the Flemish area of Belgium. 83.6 kilometers to go, and this is the peloton led by Ian Stannard, chasing down a break of 9 riders, and they are on the top of the Oude Kwaremont, one of the big places to be throughout the spring. And Magnus Begster, let's get straight to it because they're all on the river.
Yeah, they certainly are. Ian Stannard putting a hard effort in up here over the Oude Kwaremont, and we were talking before and said how horrible a section this is. It's not necessarily the steep part of the climb that's difficult, but the falls flat over the top is where it really does hurt.
This is Denyek Stiebar weather today. The cyclocross superstar turned to the road. No Tom Bonen today, by the way. Had to abandon after a couple of crashes at Omloop Nieuwsblad yesterday. Overnight he's been home. He has a sickness bug, stomach bug. He is not racing today, so no sprint objective really today, unless they're going to go for Matteo Trentin for quick step. Hence the reason they're attacking the race. 9 up the road, already it's all over the place behind.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday as well. It was really hard racing all the way from very early on in the race, and it seems like today's tactics are no different. And certainly with Quick-Step not having Bonen here, they want to try and effectively blow this whole bunch to bits and pieces and try and create a very small select group that gets to the finish line. They don't want any of the fast men to get to the finish.
Whatever happens today, we're going to have a fast race, aren't we? Because in the first hour we had 48.5 kilometers ridden. Daniel Os, Alexis Goujard tried to get away, they were brought back. Then we have Marco Colledan attacking the Italian as well for Trek Segafredo. That wasn't allowed to go. Nothing, in fact, was allowed to go until well over an hour into the race. We had a small crash on the road as well. Bram Tankink getting all tangled up with Joan Alfredo, who's now a rider for a Belgian team, by the way, the Frenchman with the Wanty Group Gobert. Then we had a break of 9 go. Roulant is in there, Goujard's in there, Farazane, Duchesne, Boivin, Kirsch, Van Hinneken, Cordel and Boucher. But I think their days aren't quite numbered yet, but the composition of the race is obviously changing, certainly with this move that's been put together by Stiebar, and I think that's Stefan Kung with him at the front. Yeah,
it certainly looks like Kung at the front there for BMC. Like you said, I think the days are numbered for that group out front, and certainly with all the, should we call them favourites here now, really starting to...
Oh, no, that's a big one, because he had an awful day yesterday, didn't he? Caught up behind the crash that really... It sort of stopped the race for more than half the peloton yesterday when we had the crash right before we went into the Tyenberg. Yeah,
it did. It was really interesting to see how so many teams actually got left out of the mix yesterday, and there was an awful lot. Even Quick-Step to a certain extent missed out in a big way, and usually when that happens they get back here to Kuurne, Brussel, Kuurne, and they you know, perform.
Second opportunity then, not quite as prestigious as the one 24 hours ago, given the fact that that's now a World Tour event as well, and of course the first big event on Belgian roads. This though has been won by some big names, and it's a race that it sort of says, well, what's their tagline? Well, what legends are born. It's a shame that one legend doesn't get a chance to say goodbye today.
Yeah, it certainly is a shame that Tom is not on the start line, but these things happen. He's bike racing, and he got caught up in that crash yesterday as well, so he's clearly not feeling on top form after that.
So no Tom Bonan today, no Paddy Bevan either for Cannondale, no Luka Pibernik for Bahrain Merida. He couldn't take the start. 195 riders on the start today, and out of those back in the peloton, I think if they're not making these selections right now, it's going to be game over pretty soon, because these are the strong men coming to the front with 80 kilometers to go in Kuurne, Brussel, Kuurne. Tony Martin making the selection from the favourites, and look at this, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 quick steps in this group.
Yeah, like we said, they missed out yesterday in quite a big way, certainly in terms of quick step standards of cobblestone racing. So they want to make sure that they're there in numbers today, and certainly it looks like they've made that split. Quite a few teams actually with more than one rider in that group now.
Tony Martin's in that group. Ian Stannard's in that group for Team Sky, the former British champion. They're currently 3 minutes and 24 behind a breakaway that does contain 2 stellar names as well. Jurgen Roelandts and Alexis Gouchard. Certainly no disrespect to the other names out there. One of the other names out there is an experienced pro, David Boucher, but he's drifting all the way back towards the group. So he's no longer a factor. 8 riders in that main breakaway of the day. But I think the names we should be looking out for are Roelandts and Gouchard.
Yeah, I think that's right. With so many riders and big teams, and especially when there's riders that have big numbers in here as well, who's going to do the work, who's going to can you actually get this whole group to work well together, to go away from the chasing bunches and or groups, we should probably call them, because it's at the moment split all over the road. That's usually the difficult part. It's not so hard to actually create this kind of a split, but to actually carry that on and keep it going and actually establish that group, that's what's tricky.
World champion Pedro Sagan is in the group, just towards the back it looks like. And of course,
I think he's certainly feeling yesterday's ride. He was really strong. Possibly a bit too strong, yeah, and did an awful lot of work, and ended up looking a bit worse for wear in the final sort of 5 or 10 kilometers, and we could see as well in the sprint that he didn't quite have the legs to match Greg van Avermaet.
That's the opinion that was shared by José de Cauwer, the very famous former Greg LeMond's former sports director at the Tour de France when he won back in the day, and now he's a commentary colleague of ours over on Belgian television on Sporza, and he was saying, well, the world champion was simply far too good. He showed too much, were José's words.
Yeah, he showed an awful lot, but sometimes you have to do that as well to kind of get that thought process in your mind to actually save the legs a bit. And I've said a number of times in the past that when you are 100% physically, and you tend to make mistakes because you can move all the time, you can put down the power, it's so easy all the time, and before you know it, that comes back and bites you. When you sort of get that thought, okay, I'm not invincible, I have to actually think about what I'm doing here, then you race smarter and you end up doing better results effectively.
This is a look at the break. There's Farah Zain at the back there in the blue, yellow and white, and this is going to trip us up a couple of times over the classic season, isn't it?
Yeah,
no
doubt.
longer top Sport Vlaanderen,
No.
just Sport Vlaanderen. That's of course the second division team that it's been visible on our screens for a long time now. It's almost a factory of talent development, isn't it? It's a team that's sponsored by the local government.
Yeah, it is sponsored by the Flemish government, but you know, I think that they're a team in their own right now, and they do perform very well when they get these rides. So whether it's a development team, if you will, or whether it's or not, I guess it's a fine line between the two. Yes, there are an awful lot of riders who start their careers in Sport Vlaanderen and then move on to what is classed as the bigger teams in Belgium, but you know, they certainly have some very strong bike riders, and some older statesmen in there as well who's still going well. Brim van Ecke yesterday was in the early breaks for a very long time.
Well, on the Kleursberg now, it's a kilometre long.
Steep, horrible climb, this one, and he drags on forever at the start of it and just gets steeper and steeper until you get around this cafe up here, which is one of my favourite spots when I was living out in Belgium for a quick coffee.
I was going to say, is that a coffee stop for you?
Yeah, it used to be.
Again, it's hard, isn't it, to get the message across well enough that if you haven't been to ride on these roads in Belgium, do it, because it is such a special experience, and I use this analogy a lot. You can't go and have a kickabout at Wembley if you're a football fan, but if you're a cycling fan, you can come and ride the Quaremont, you can come and ride the Kleusberg, you can stop at all these places, and there's loads of little graffiti on the roads, isn't there, in homage to local riders. There's signposts, there's little memorials. It's a voyage of historic discovery in itself, just going for a bike round around here.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I still love getting across to Belgium and you know, being part of the scene out there. Even now, like, I'm taking a lot of the juniors that I have in my development team across there as well, and every time I get there, I just get this feeling of this is racing. It's where it kind of feels like this is where it was all born.
Het is koers, as they say. This is racing.
Yeah, it is.
Right, let's have a look at this group, because Arnaud Demar's in there, and that's a really important one for Française des Jeux. He is a big sprinter, of course. Look at Tony Martin at the front with Zdeněk Štýbar. There's that Luke Rowe as well, alongside Ian Stannard. Luke Rowe really enjoyed the racing yesterday, finished 6th in Omloop at Nieuwsblad, and said, well, quite simply, the 3 guys who are ahead of us were stronger.
Quite a bit of wind out there today. Yeah, I think Luke Rowe well yesterday. I don't quite know what happened, because I think it was Luke, Ian Stannard and Gianni Moscon was in that group with Peter Sagan, and made it across to Peter Sagan, and then pictures went away to the sort of chasing group, and when we got back they weren't there anymore, and I don't know what happened, because it wasn't on one of the harder climbs either. They just disappeared.
Greg van Avermaet, winner 24 hours ago, is in this chasing group as well. So the cream already rising to the top. Rider from Orica Scott. I wonder if that's going to be Magnus Kort or Jens Kuurne in there as well, because if one of those is present...
Looks like Kuurne to me.
Well, Kuurne's had a bit of a bad run over the last few weeks. He started today by saying that they were riding for Magnus Kort, but if he's on his own, then they're going to have to be riding for him. I think that's Sam Bennett down there as well in that group alongside Peter Sagan. A few other BMC jerseys. One team that's lacking a bit is Trek Segafredo.
Yeah, they are lacking a bit. They had a good showing yesterday. I think they messed it up a little bit in the last sort of 30-odd kilometers, though. They had quite a good number of riders in that chasing group, but they didn't really put the sort of tactics right, I think. Didn't chase hard enough to try and bring the 3 riders back.
Riders being brought back all the time from the breakaway. Rider from Veranda's Willems Krelon is Sander Cordeel, Belgian rider. Stijn de Volder riding in that team, by the way, now. That's a big step down to the continental level, 3rd division level of cycling. Again, just in response to Jeff Rogers, who's written in on Twitter. By the way, you can write in #HomeOfCycling. Doesn't like the football references. We're just trying to make it understandable for everybody. There's a lot of people watching the cycling with us for the first time this year. Oh, as Demar has to be a little careful there. A little gust of wind.
Yeah, easy to happen, and certainly on these Belgian roads, there's so many cracks in the road, and you know, a lot of the time there's concrete slabs that you're riding on as well, so there's always that little split in the middle you've got to be careful of.
So 2:53 back to the 3rd group. Peloton, which is the group that we're looking behind, at 3:22. Long way to get back in here. The selection has been made with 75 kilometers still to go.